The Edge of Shadow. My name is Blackthorn. I will be your narrator this evening. This is Session 12, War Horns on the River. So just as we left our heroes in the previous session, they sent a dear friend and companion to the afterlife via funeral pyre. And they are lamenting and exchanging pleasant memories, saying the typical things that you'd say about someone who had just passed away. But we will open the scene somewhere not too far away as the stage lights dim, the scene changes, the house lights come up to reveal two Arborians. One of which is a young man, and the other is a boy, roughly about equivalent to an 11 and a half, maybe a 12-year-old, if he was a human. The boy is already seemingly fully developed as a man, as he is a muscular young boy, sturdy of back as all Arborians are. And they're walking along the river, and they're conversating, and they're talking about what all young men talk about: girls, what they plan to do when the younger is old enough to travel, and read, and study, all that sort of thing. So the young boy starts, well, so, Warwick, Olivia has been eyeing you up quite nicely. And Warwick, the older of the two, he smiles, and if Arborians could blush, he would. But Arborians don't blush. He looks down and he goes, "Oh, no, shut your mouth, you." And he just puts his huge Arborian hand on the boy's face and just pushes him away. And they both have a laugh. And he goes, "You don't like girls? What are you talking about, girls, boy? Shut your mouth." And he kind of makes like he's going to like take a step forward to like tickle him. And of course, the young boy, who is Corwin, actually, he kind of giggles nervously, stumbles away. Ah, no! And then he falls down in the mud. Of course, they share a laugh. But Warwick seems a little bit distracted by something. He looks to the south, across the river, and we'll see the camera pan in that direction. There's a great wooden bridge that spans the Green River, which flows into the Great Gray River that empties into the Southern Sea, some 100 miles south of you. Now, what Warwick sees across the river is an Atlantean, kind of a forward operating base, if you will. They seem to be there packing up, or soon to be finishing up packing, and loading their things into the wagons. They're packing their things into the saddlebags and the wagons of their primordial horses, the native horses that have brown fur and stripes on their legs. They begin moving north towards this bridge. And Warwick looks a little frightened for a few moments. He drops his left hand to the hilt of his sword. He says, "Corwin, come on, we got to go to the bridge." and they both haul ass down down the river towards this bridge. And Corwin, not having the developed legs of a man just yet, is struggling to keep up. But the boy is again quite athletic, so he manages, barely, but he manages. As soon as Warwick and Corwin get to the bridge, or a small hill nearby the bridge, the Atlanteans have absolutely made their intentions known, uh, and they plan to cross. They've not seen the two Arborians at this time, and Corwin looks down. You need to go. You need to go alert the village. And of course, Corwin, being the now starting to become worried and a little scared, he says, I don't want to leave you. I want to stay and fight with you. And Warwick takes a knee at this time, so he can get down, look into Corwin's eyes. Warwick's gold orbs just kind of gaze down lovingly. He says, little brother, I will be fine, but you need to go. You've heard the tales from the mortals from across the way. You need to go tell them. Because if you don't, they'll cross the river and they will take these lands from us. You need to go. Warwick kisses Corwin on the forehead and then hugs him really close. Corwin now has tears in his eyes, and tries and hugs his elder brother back with some exacting clarity. Warwick takes a fey iron skinning knife off of his belt, and he presses it into the boy's hands. Now go. And of course, Corwin hesitates. Go, he urges on. Of course, the boy, again, with everything that he has, that poor 11-year-old can only haul ass through the tall grass in the forest so fast. And Warwick turns to the bridge, walks down that hill with all the dignity that he can muster. He unties his cloak. He hangs it on the railing of the bridge. He ascends the 4 steps up onto the wooden platform that stretches along this river. And to describe the river for you, the Great Gray River, as we know, is about a good width of, say, the Mississippi River. And now the Green River is maybe a third, but is a fast-moving river. So if one was to fall into the river, you'd be swept away in seconds. You're gone. So the bridge itself sits about 8 to 10 feet above the surface of the water, and it kind of gives that like that flat archway. Warwick unbelts his sword from his belt. He draws the great fey iron blade, and he drops the scabbard on the floor. And he takes a war horn off of his belt, and he brings it to his lips. And just as he is about to bring the horn to his lips, we snap back to our companions. What was Blogveer what story was Blogveer telling Shihan about Gilfek?
He was telling him of the one of their many war battles that they did against the Atlanteans, and how Gil saved Blogveer from a charging Atlantean pikeman by falling at his knees and tripping over and falling on his own spear. The shaft handle snapped his neck as he fell. And he just fondly remembered these times, looking very grim and solemn, sadness in his eyes, but also fervor and hatred burning.
As Shihan is about to speak, his lips part, and your silence there, the grimness is shattered by 3 long, low horn blasts. Now, Shihan, being the hunter that he is no stranger to the war horn or the hunting horn. Now, when these tones ring through the forest, Shihan gets a flashback from his childhood when his father beat him as a boy for not answering a horn call. Describe for us what this image that just rushes into his mind.
Well, Sheehan's young lad, he would, by comparison to a normal mortal, maybe 12, similar of age actually to the Arborian that we saw earlier, and he is playing a fairly complex game with 2 other children. They're younger than him. It involves stones and some bent pieces of metal, it looks like, and colored string. And as his hands move across this board, him being the older boy, he is actually wearing the leathers of a young hunter, and he does have the knife of a hunter on his hip at this point. And for a moment, he looks up and he hears tones very similar to that, not too far away. And he looks down at the board, realizing that he's actually winning this. Looks up and goes back to his game. Well, a few moments later, his father comes running over the hilltop. His long, flowing hair striking among the dark-haired fair folk. Sees Shihan there knelt over this game, comes down and forcefully kicks the game pieces out of the way, grabs the back of Shihan's hair, yanks up into the air and said, "Did you not hear that horn?" And Shihan, "Yes, father, but I thought you didn't think. If you thought, you would have went." And shoves him in the direction and says, "Go, boy, go, go. I'm right behind you." And as he tops the hill down below, there was he sees that there's actually a bit of a pitched battle going on. There are 3 fair folk fighting retreating battle with their bows against what looks to be either troll men or some version of those that might dwell among the trees of the forest. They're trying to cover one other who is limping along, holding his arm as if in pain, obviously. He rushes down and helps the fellow up the hill as his father rushes past him and lines up a shot on one of the leading creatures and lets fly, taking that one down. And apparently that was the last straw, and the brutes break and run back into the forest. Well, turns out this fellow with a broken arm was one of the local nobles in the area who was a very good friend of my father's. And because of his broken arm, his arm never properly set again, so that he could not properly draw a bow, and he lost his position. But that night, my father, after explaining this to me, beat me soundly and said, "You never ever ignore a horn of distress like that." And Shihan snaps back as the last echo of that horn blast echoes across the lake. And he looks over at Waldver and says, "Someone needs help." And he starts running that direction.
As you peel off into the wood, Shihan takes one last glance up to the hill that looked over your small glade there, and the great stag that stood vigil there for a few moments. It did not startle at the horn call, but it snapped its face in that direction, its gaze, and it uh, hauled ass the way we know deer do through the forest in that direction as well. The floor is yours, gentlemen.
Logbeard takes off after Shihan, taking big, massive strides to catch up with the nimble Fey folk there. And he was startled by the horn. He was deeply engrossed in the story and fond memories, and he kind of stumbled at the start to get going. He wasn't ready to take off this fast, but he's slowly getting momentum, trying to keep up.
Shihan darts in between the boughs of the trees, that forest there at the edge of that lake, and goes up to a rise and tilts his head to listen to see if he can hear that peal of that horn again, to get his bearings. And as he does so, he heads down the other side of that rise and towards back in the trees again. Once again, just darting back and forth between the bows.
You do hear the horn again and again, twice more, but it seems that the wind, possibly from having to play such an instrument, is becoming more and more labored, like the horn blower, if you will, is becoming more and more distressed. Now, I'm going to kind of describe these next few bouts in kind of real time for you. So the next scene, we see Warwick kind of engrossed in a hand-to-hand battle with these Atlantean troopers who are now kind of trying to force their way through this bridge. And Warwick, to describe him for you, Warwick is slightly shorter than other Arborians. He's about 5'8", as most of them are 5'11", 6'1", 6'2". And what Warwick brings as a warrior is speed. He is quite literally raw speed given swordsmanship. And as these Atlanteans push through, someone will thrust out with a sword, and Warwick will lop it off at the elbow, and the next one will try and gain an advantage with that opening. Warwick will put his boot into the nose of the advancing threat, and he does not let anyone pass him this entire battle. He will be forced back several paces, and he will become wounded as which would naturally be he would be accustomed to, but no one living passes him and crosses into the Arborian side. Now, back to our party. Shihane and Blogveer kind of crash through the underbrush of the edge of the forest here, and you are now you actually see this battle. You see this this bridge, and you're not able to actually get to them. What you see is Shihane. You'll make a quick. Actually, you know what? We'll actually go with Blogveer. Blogveer, go ahead and make a cunning test, quick like.
Okay. That is that's 6.
Okay. You are familiar with the Atlantean unit structure. That is 48 troopers there, and that is a full platoon of them, actually.
He's not going to last long. That's a full platoon of Atlanteans.
Shehane bobbed his head up above the underbrush there and notices that. Says, yes, that's an Arborean. And he says, with our help, he can at least maybe pull back. So maybe we can distract him at least for a few moments. What do you think? I mean, an ogre in full charge is going to give anyone pause. And you see there's a light in Shehan's eyes. It's both energizing, but also just a little bit disturbed because it seems almost like a fevered glee at the prospect of battle.
Blogbeer will unclasp his great war club from his sheath ring on his back, and I think the great goddess hasn't got her offering for the day. Let's bathe this river in blood. Let it flow.
Yes, let's do.
All right. Where do you guys wish to advance, and how do you wish to do so?
I think if we're going to do a distraction, we need to come at them from the side, not directly. So possibly see if we can't lead some of them into the underbrush with us. Make their formation more difficult to hold together.
Okay, so what you're actually looking at is they're about 500 yards away.
Okay.
And they're upriver from you.
Okay.
You will not be able to actually engage them from their rear flank, from what you're actually looking at.
Right.
What you can do, however, is you can there is a shallow portion of the gray river there that you can actually wade through and actually cross onto the Arborean side of the bridge and actually back him up from there, which you'd be reinforcing that position. If you want to attempt to attack them from the rear, you're going to have to go all the way around and possibly risk losing Warwick.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
Is there any way to wade under the bridge and start destroying the bridge from the underside?
The river is too deep at this time. It's been raining quite a lot here in the north, so it's kind of overflowing its banks.
Shehane sees the shallower part of the river and looks and says, looks like our Fisher King has given us a path to charge. What say you?
I say let's charge.
Okay. In that case, Shehane will just start running out toward the river.
Blogbear follows him.
Yeah, toward the shallower part.
Okay, as you guys meet the river there, you'd hear two more horn blasts coming from the bridge, and the tones used in this are tones of alarm. Now, Fey horns, the way they are made, you can actually play multiple tones on one instrument and have kind of like a, not unlike Morse code kind of message in said horn blasts. Now, this is a call of alarm. Now, that is an Arborean horn. Now, Fairfolk horns are not made entirely different, but you possibly could reply with your own hunting horn if Shihan so chose.
I was actually just thinking about that, and so that would fall under song, wouldn't it?
That would fall under song.
All right. In that case, I have a 14 on my song with my horn, and I'm going to attempt to reply that basically saying aid is coming.
Okay. Describe for us what that blast sounds like.
Of course, my horn's a very clear, almost a bell-like tone. because of the specifics of the way the horns are made and some of the smaller pieces of that are intricately inserted inside this animal bone. Um, it is two short blasts, then one long going from a low to a high pitched, and then two blasts.
Okay, perfect. Another horn blast does not come as the Arborean wave breaks on the Atlantean ranks there. Now, Warwick is being pressed by a few dozen of these battle-hardened Atlantean warriors, and his vigor is starting to be sapped by the pressure of the situation and however many combatants, regardless if they can come at him one, maybe two, and three at a time, which, being an Arborean warrior, they train for such things. But it's the continuous one after another is starting to weigh on any kind of martial artist would become winded. Um, and Now Warwick is bleeding from four wounds. He has taken a spear wound to his upper left shoulder, and he has a gash just above his left kneecap. Those are the two most grievous wounds, and he starts at this point to he starts to say goodbye. Um, he mutters a few of the sutras to Lekra as the wave of the sea people just keeps coming and crashing like the tide. And at this point, our combatants are within. Shihan, you can actually fire your bow into that platoon at this time if you wish.
I will do so, aiming using one of my bronze tipped arrows. I'm going to aim for the one that is threatening his off sword side.
Okay, perfect.
Hopefully give him a chance to actually. It's going to be a 15.
All right, fantastic. Okay, that is going to hit him squarely. Go ahead and roll damage.
Okay. It is
And
going to
after
be.
this, I will have you guys roll for your reaction.
That's 5 points of damage.
Fantastic. It's not going to take that trooper out of the fight, but it's going to be going to severely wound him. Go ahead and describe for it. Describe it for us, please.
Okay. As the fellow is raising his spear to go for the offside of the Arborean warrior there, he raises his arm up to his right hand side to come down with possibly a killing blow when the arrow comes in and strikes him squarely in the meat of his shoulder, causing him to hesitate with that blow and miss his shot, and let him know, and probably him scream out in pain, not expecting that blow.
Warwick will do at this time, being a little startled by an arrow flying past him. He actually just reactively comes across with his war sword, actually cuts the leg out from under that spearman as he topples in a bloody heap, and he kind of dances back a few paces. And he regains his guard, taking a high guard at this time. He glances down to see there's an arrow sticking out of the meat of that shoulder, and he steals just a split second to look behind him. As at this point, I will have you guys describe your characters for the audience here.
Okay. We go first, Blog.
Blogveer is a 10.5-foot tall mountain of meat and destruction. His slate gray skin is glistening with sweat. Underneath his full bronze plate armor with his bronze spike-studded war club in both hands, his matted dreadlocks flowing behind him, and his magnificent rough ogre beard drenched in sweat dangling down his breastplate. He is an ogre, a monstrous ogre at that. He was bred for war. He was built for battle, and this is where he excels. This is his field. Those are his crops, and he is going to reap what he has sown, and the fields will run red.
Beautifully done. Thank you, sir.
And almost unnoticed beside this huge ogre is a figure that's half his height and much less than half his mass. Shehane is a fair folk with the long black hair that's currently matted back with what looks to be, well, just the detritus of the road and a bit of blood such mixed in. Is normally what would be expected to be glorious horns from his head are small, barely just perceptible nubs, enough to know that he has them, but what you would normally expect to see on a much, much younger fair folk. He's currently wearing a shirt of bronze mail that looks to has definitely seen better days. There are bits missing here and there, bound up with leather thongs and such to hold it together. The cloak that hangs from his back is barely holding together itself at the moment. It's torn and in tatters. The original color unknown because of all the stains and burns and such upon it. His legs clad in at one time might have been fine deerskin breeches and boots that have now been so travel worn as to be almost black in their color. And he as he's running, he is drawing another arrow from a quiver upon his back, knocking it to a horn hunting bow. And as he draws it back, his face twists up into a grimace as he screams a name, Gilfrek. So.
Now, Warwick re-engages these troopers, and with renewed vigor, he attempts to push their line back, as he now knows that reinforcements are now on the way. Bleeding from multiple wounds, he fights on with the Arborian valor placed in the breast of every one of his kin species. He fells 3 more, 2 more, and then possibly that last one. But there is a break in the battle as a maceman finds a gap, and he generates the force behind that mace head ever so perfectly. And he lashes out. He actually catches Warwick on the left cheekbone. And for those of you who have young kids, young children at home, and they knock their heads on, say, like the counter or the tile floor, it makes that crack sound, and you're just, oh. Yeah, no, he's done. And it's the same crack sound that mace makes off of Warwick's bark skin as his head rocks back. He takes it, he stumbles a few steps back, but the rest of these Atlanteans don't actually charge forward to have at him. They actually pause with this kind of collective for a few seconds as Warwick groans, and he hauls himself to his feet with an excruciatingly painful groan, and he turns those gold eyes on these Atlanteans, and we now see that his left cheekbone has been smashed and broken, and it's actually sticking out maybe like a half of an inch out of where it should be, and his nose is actually broken and like kind of like pushed in the opposite direction as there is this bloody cut that is seeping the amber, golden amber Arborian blood down his jaw, and with a painfully clenched jaw, Warwick just kind of grumbles this. Oh, he just kind of reaches up with his offhand and touches his cheek. Oh, it's going to take a little bit more than a love tap like that, little girl, to knock me down. And at this point in time, Blogveer is now on the bridge, thundering down that wooden bridge as those footfalls boom, boom, boom. Blogveer, I'm just gonna have you roll 2d8 and describe for us how many people you slaughter with that opening swing, and describe for us this image of this bulldozer like entity coming down this narrow bridge.
I rolled a crit fail.
Oh no, you don't. No, you don't. Come on now. How many people did you kill, Blogveer?
I killed 2 of them.
Hey man, it's fine. You killed 2 of them. It'll be all right. Describe for us how you dispatch these people.
All right, Blugbear thunders down to their front line, and he swings his massive great club with a backswing, knocks the first one. His head is just gone, just snaps right back off, just dangling off to the back of his back there. And the second one, he will come back around, smack him into the air, and then like a baseball bat, just bam, and he just goes flying off into the river.
Oh, grim. All right. So that first stroke, actually, Warwick brings his sword point up in front of him as he feels this kind of like the air pressure change as this whoosh passes over his hair, actually messes up his hair a little bit, and he is soaked with Atlantean blood as those 3 poor bastards just get annihilated. And at this point, I will have you guys roll for reaction, please.
11.
Nine here.
And all right, so oh shit, of course the Atlanteans go first. God damn it. The Atlanteans go with a 17. So
Oof.
before we descend into the bloody chaos of battle, what Warwick is going to do as Blogveer steps past him and is now consumed by the bloodbath of the situation. Warwick's the tip of his fey iron sword will actually drop to the floor, and he'll take about 3 kind of like weak steps back, as he is now bleeding from 9 total wounds on his body. Warwick takes a knee, and he leans on his sword, the sword tip now, on the floor of the bridge, and he hangs his left wrist over the keyon of the sword, and with his right elbow on the railing, he lets his jaw kind of like slack open to relieve the pressure on his now shattered zygoma, and he just pants. The Atlantean line is going to try and have a go at Blogveer, and the first 3 guys are not going to score higher than a 7 on their attack rolls. So go ahead and Blogveer, go ahead and make a defense test.
That's 14.
Yeah, so none of those attacks are going to go through. They either bounce off of your armor or you step out of the way. Now, that is their turn. Blogveer is now up. The next act here. As you destroyed those few individuals from before, there was a few moments of just hush and calm in his mind, where a sultry woman's voice whispered in his ear, "Send their souls to me." Blogveer is the next
Yes.
act.
I am going to lash out at the first unfortunate fishfucker that I find and just start decimating him.
What we're going to do here is we're going to do some narrative combat until or if reinforcements arrive on your guys' side. So what you're going to do is you're going to roll 2d8, and that is how many people you will slay in your scene. What did you roll there?
I rolled a 5.
All right, describe for me how you slay the next 5 combatants.
Well, the first 3 combatants all get lined up perfectly for me for a nice side swipe, and the first one gets impaled on my bronze spikes on my war club, and the freight train just keeps going, and then another one gets impaled, and another one. I got 3 of them on it. And I lift it up, and I slam it down, crack the bridge a bit, and I just pull it out. The blood just gushes out of this fountain of just meat, as these poor bastards are just beaten and broken. Some, their necks snapped, bones poking out, spurting, the arms dislocated, flopping everywhere, entire skeleton shattered, and the bridge, the small crater there cracked, gave way under the immense pressure of this giant, just comet that came down and smacked them. And the other 2 next to them just gasped, slack-jawed, and this like, oh my God. And then Blogveer just goes over to one of them with his offhand, grabs him by the head, lifts him up, and then crushes his skull. As brain, eyeballs pop out, he throws it on the ground, charges the other unsuspecting fool, goes with an upward swipe, hits him right in the nether region, lifts him in the air, smacks him straight down on his head. His head just goes right back into his body like a turtle. It just goes in, and it's inside of his sternum now, as just this pile of bile and blood just accumulates around him, as he just raises his blood-splattered face to the sky and just carnage.
So, oh my God, that's beautiful. Now, Blogveer's mind is now flooded with images of an unspeakably and almost frightfully beautiful nude woman who is covered head to toe in dried and wet blood and gore. Her hair is long, so long as it is goes past her buttocks there, and is matted to her. She quite literally does moan at this the ecstasy of this carnage here, and she touches herself in the various soft spots. She leans forward a bit, a mouth agape, as this next scene, as she's spattered in the face with blood, as these cries of ecstasy echo through Blogveer's mind. Shihane is the next to act.
Roll my dice.
Don't lose those, man.
Oh, don't worry. I have 5. So get to describe you how I killed 5, right?
Yes, exactly.
All
Your
right.
arm is gonna go dead in about a half hour.
That's okay. So he reaches over his shoulder to his quiver, and instead of doing his usual where he draws just one arrow, he grabs a handful. And he definitely using 2 of his fingers, flips one around and knocks it to his bow, and secures the others alongside the bow on the opposite side of where his arrow rests. He leaps up on the railing of this bridge to get a shot around Blogveer, who is taking up pretty much all the room, and crouching down is able to lean out just a bit and let fly one arrow, which as one fellow ducks below Blogveer's great club, thinking he's safe, Sheehan's arrow comes flying in through his helmet into one of his eyes, knocking him backwards into the fray. He then flips around another arrow, lines up another shot. Once again, just past that, behind the fellow who just fell, pings that fellow in the neck. Then he repeats this 3 and 4, four more times, 2 more times, total of 5. Letting arrows fly as he times his shots between Blogfear's swings so that as the club clears one out, the arrow itself flies just past or just behind the club, taking the next person unaware, so they have no chance to even know what killed them. So,
Oh, that is beautiful.
That's fucking great.
Now, the Atlanteans are going to attempt to counterattack Bloodbeer. The first attack is actually a 14. The second will be an 18, and the last one will be a 10.
I got a 9, so they all hit me.
Okay, so the first attack coming in with a spear will land in, we'll say, the inside soft part of your left thigh. Their spear kind of goes in there with 9 points of damage. Be sure to fix
Yep,
that.
armor suppress. Yep. So, okay.
And the next one is actually that's going to be 3 points of damage. So that's actually not going to get through your armor.
It's absorbed.
And the last one will be 7 points of damage. The last one will actually be a short sword that actually gets in behind one of the greaves of your shins. He's trying to attack your kneecap there, or stab the sword in there behind your kneecap. Their tactics are, if they swarm you and they get you to one knee, they can overpower you.
Yeah, that's what the fish fuckers think.
That's absolutely what they think, but it's hardly the story now, is it?
No.
Now, Bloodveer is the next to act.
Well,
Bloodveer being kind of bolstered up with this kind of psycho-erotic carnage here.
oh yeah, he's in ecstasy right now. He just red mist, and that's all he sees.
If you want to fury like a barbarian, you absolutely should and can.
Oh,
if you wish.
Yeah, I don't know how to fury, but I'm gonna fury.
It is +2 physique, +2 vitality until the end of the combat scene.
Oh shit, yeah. All right, let's fuck these people up.
Describe for us how you drop into this this blind rage, and roll me those dice to see who you should.
I take 8 people with me.
Oh, for God's sake, that's beautiful.
And
all right.
they clip me in behind my the soft spot of my greave, and my leg does give out a little bit. I don't fall to my knee, but my leg gives out, and I just lift my head up covered in blood, scream at the top of my lungs in Ogrish, just carnage, Gilthic. My eyes rage with like that of a ravenous, wounded animal. Spittle and blood fly from my mouth as I raise my club up. Smack dead center in the chest, the one who had cut me in the back of my leg. Send him flying into his friends, taking at least 3 others with him, crushed by the just sheer force of my swing. Then I grab the closest one to me, grab him by the neck, snap his neck, and rip out his spine. I then use his own spine as a whip and whip around and bash his friend's head in. Then I grab the spine, wrap it around another one's neck, twist it like a garrote, and pop his head off. I then twirl the spine and throw it, knock another one in the head, eyeballs fly out. I then grab, I think this is the last one. I grab him, lift him up above my head, and then just rip him in half as I get showered in blood and bile, and throw him on the ground, screaming carnage the whole time.
Oh my God, that's grim. All right, fantastic. Now, Blogbear, as he has entered the red mist here, he's not paying attention to everything except for the target-rich environment in front of him. However, Shihane, if you want to go ahead and make an awareness test for me, quick.
I have a 17.
All right, you hear a peal of multiple Arborian war horns echo in the distance behind you. A few seconds delay. There's another. A few more seconds. There are two more, and you kind of get this feeling that every man, woman, child, their aunts, uncles, and someone's bringing the entire kitchen sink with them. Now, that tree line behind you, in that tree line appears hundreds of very angry looking Arborians.
Okay. All right. Well, as soon as I start seeing them, I'm going to start a battle song. It is in my mind at least, it's an old fair folk battle song. They may actually have a version of there in Arborea as well. For those who want to know what the actual song is, it's the March of Cambria, if you're familiar with that. The refrain of that is, "How many of them can we make die?" And he starts belting it out as loud as he possibly can as he's flinging arrows at these fellows with a 14 on the song. So
wonderfully done. Roll me 1d8 for your scene in the narrative combat.
All right. Ooh, 7. So
right.
So what Shihane does is he notices these fellows moving back and forth, trying to keep formation such around Blogveer as he's charging forward, and he sees there's been some damage done to the bridge. So he winds up lining up a shot with a single arrow and fires at one fellow, hits him in the leg, and he falls over. And the weight of his armor takes out a section of the railing and takes out those 7 who fall into the river.
Beautifully done. At the end of Shihan's scene, however, he will see 2 more Atlantean platoons arrive at this time. As their reinforcements have arrived, and clearly yours have too.
Oh, shit.
What we're going to do is we're going to fast forward to this next few scenes. As you guys already know, this is going to devolve into a horrific, nightmarish bloodbath, as there is a few dozen Arborian archers that kind of stack up on the hill that Shihan was just on, and they begin arrow storming into the area that those 2 platoons are inhabiting before they enter the bridge. And a whole column of these very, very upset Arborian peasants charge and bum rush the line behind Blogveer. As at this moment in time, I'll say that Blogveer is about to rear back with 2 hands, smash this poor Atlantean into absolute nothingness and bloody paste. The scene around him just erupts with Fae as they go past him, and he's pulled out of this blood haze as you see all of these Arborian warriors and their peasants. What does he do at this point in time?
Well, he first takes a minute to acknowledge that he just went to a complete, utter erotic frenzy that he's never done before. So that was something. He's kind of like, whoa, what was that? And then he shakes out of that, looks around, he sees these peasants with pitchforks and shovels and whatnot, spades running up here screaming, angry, pissed off, and he's just wondering, like, what the fuck is going on? But he doesn't care. He got reinforcements. Going to kill some more fish fuckers. So he just readies his club and charges with these peasants as they run with their dung-filled pitchforks and whatnot, running at these Atlanteans.
Like I said, this devolves into a hand-to-hand, or excuse me, hand-to-hand, hand to pitchfork, sword, and shield to spade and or shovel. You see an Arborian man stove the head in of one of the enemy commanders with a spade. He just absolutely sorts his shit out. And this goes by for 15 minutes as the Atlanteans just wilt under you, and you bear witness to the fury of how Arborians feel about the possibility of them being invaded. Nah, they're not having any of that. They don't get with that. That's not straight. And towards the end of this mop up, has he moved at all from his railing?
Yeah, as soon as he sees the Arborians starting their charge, he's going to get off of that railing so he doesn't get knocked off, and he'll step back to the edge of the river and sort of step aside and let them by, and he'll actually range out to the side along the riverbank so he has a little better shot across the river with his bow, and hopefully be able to pick off Atlanteans who are trying to maybe flank these Arborians.
Okay. This will go on for a few more minutes until a hand actually touches Shihan on the shoulder.
He'll turn to see who it is. Yes.
There is a priest of Lekra there, standing there before you.
Okay.
An Arborian who's about 6'3", wears the robes of a warrior priest. He's armed with a bronze war scythe, as it looks like. It's a pole arm with a forward curving blade for not so much reaping wheat, but the legs of combatants, as you know. And he points to Blogveer still hammering away at these poor things, and he says, "Is that one yours?"
Well, I don't actually own him, but he is with me. Yes.
He just nods. Well, thank you for coming.
He likes killing, as he calls them, fish fuckers.
As well they do, and as they are. Despicable, horrible things.
That is true. Shihan looses an arrow just as one Arborian is trying to sneak up the side of the bridge to get behind him, and takes him in the back and knocks him off. They're actually fun to put arrows into as well.
As the Arborians mop up the rest of the troopers and they kill off the survivors there, Blogveer sees that you can indeed cut somebody's throat with a shovel. You just kind of like blink at wow.
He gains greater appreciation for the farming tools and whatnot, the mundane tools they can use for more than just shoveling shit and whatnot. So he admires that.
As you're admiring this, you think back to the few moments after they had first arrived, that someone threw a pitchfork, almost as if it was a spear or a trident, and the thing caught one of the Atlantean archers in the chest and then stapled him to the floor behind him.
Oh, that's great. That's just perfect. Blogveer he just grown greater appreciation and admiration for these mundane tools. Like anything's a weapon. if you press for it. And so now he knows. He takes notes how to slice a man's throat with a spade and impale people with a shit shovel. So he's taking notes.
The floor is yours, gentlemen, as the stench of blood and the sound of the river. The river now does indeed run red with Atlantean blood. I will tell you that much.
Logbeer will take a moment after the carnage, and he will grip his small pouch with his friend's beard in it, and he will just give praise to the goddess Carnage. His whole body soaked in blood and bile. He probably has some intestines hanging, from his pauldrons and whatnot, and he just gives praise to her, and he also gives praise to his lost friend and his comrade, and he will slowly wade through the bodies, kick them into the river and everything, make his way back to Shihan, taking his time and savoring the destruction and carnage, and admiring his work and the work of the peasants, and patting, give a nice, hearty pat to some peasants and all that, and praising them for their prowess, and just leading a cheer to a victory as he wades through the bodies and making his way back to Shihan.
Well, he'll meet Shihan about halfway then, because he'll be going through, walking up and leaning over those who are just injured but not quite dead yet, whispering in their ear, that telling them that they'll be spending eternity working the fields of one Gilfrack as he slits their throats, and sends them on as slaves for his in the afterlife for his fallen friend. He'll collect arrows as such as he goes, of course, if they're his or any others that happen to be of good quality that he can slap into his quiver, and hopefully come back.
Arrows at this time.
Okay. So, but he'll if he happens to see a knife that looks interesting, he'll pick it up, make a couple spears. But looking around and seeing these peasants are all using, although very effectively using farming tools, he actually suggests to some of the warriors to begin collecting the arms and armor of these Atlanteans, because these will not be the last.
Oh, they've done that as soon as the last one was slain. They're starting to strip everybody.
Oh yeah, I'll help. So, and making sure they're all dead. Sure.
You guys will actually meet about halfway. We'll say in about the middle of the bridge. Evidently, that's actually where Warwick is still leaning up against the side of the bridge, as a medicine man, a healer, is actually tending to his multiple wounds.
I'll go. Blogger will walk up to that fucking beast of a man. You have definitely shown the Arborian war battle is a fury. You are a fine warrior, and I admire your work. I'm a fan.
He very weakly grunts his approval at you. Obviously, he's in a lot of pain.
Pain let you know you're alive. It feels exquisite, doesn't it? He just takes in a deep breath, and his nostrils filled with blood and bile, and he just tingles it through his whole body. He just revels in the ecstasy that is the carnage that has been befallen in this battlefield. He just smiles, big toothy grin.
As Warwick doesn't say anything, but as the medicine man is tending to the huge wound on his left leg, he actually resets his nose where it should be. So you hear this crack, crack, pop, and he just groans like, and he turns his head to the side, sticks his thumb. He closes one of his nostrils and blows hard as this gout of snot, amber-colored blood, and whatever the hell else flies out of his nose onto the bridge as Shihan walks up.
Yeah, Shihan is, of course, grinning from ear to ear, walks up to the fellow and says, in Feywise, Well met in battle, brother. My companion here, Blogveer, he worships the goddess Carnage, so I hope he hasn't been, trying to get you to fight him or anything. You wouldn't do Blogveer.
There's no honor in fighting one who is so badly wounded. It wouldn't be much of a fight. Maybe if I was on the ground, semi-conscious, maybe it'd be fair, but no.
Shihan reaches over to Blogbeer's knee and pats it a little bit and says, "I think you're leaking there, friend."
I can't tell what's mine and what's theirs, although I do feel a tickle behind this knee. Oh, yep, that's mine. I better get that 10 to 2 at some point.
Warwick looks up into Blogveer's eyes and he goes, "I could still take you without a leg." He actually says it in Ogreish, actually.
I look surprised, but like a pleasant surprise, like, that's the Arborean spirit I love. The suicidal mission, they just go to it smiling.
But he does, after a few moments, reply to Shihan in Feywise. He actually speaks both languages. No, he hasn't challenged me yet. No, thank you for being here when you were.
I heard your horn, and we were nearby. We sent a friend of ours earlier to the afterlife because of friends of theirs. He scornfully shakes his head over towards the bodies being stripped. He said, "I sent several of them to tend his fields in the afterlife. Hope to send many, many more."
Good. Damn them. I don't mind Atlanteans. What I mind is them coming here. They can have the coastline. To hell with the coastline. It's bad land. It's bad farming land. Nothing grows there. Fuck all of them.
From what I see, they've been moving inland, and they're associated with the group that's been meddling with the rituals of harvest as well.
Oh, yours too? He
Yes.
rolls his eyes at that.
Yes, I believe they're all tied together in some way. Are you the chieftain of this tribe?
He kind of weakly chuckles at the other. No, I'm just a farmer here too.
Well, if you would be, it would be my honor to help you back to your home, and if possible, speak with your chieftains and your spiritual leaders, because I believe there's a plan being laid to have your people and those Atlanteans eliminate each other. And there may be those who are trying to spread discord among both sides and cause as much carnage as possible. So
they can try, but he kind of points with his weak finger. He goes, the priest that you spoke to before. He points him out. That's who you want to talk to.
Then I definitely shall, once we have made sure a great warrior has returned to his home and his family.
Blogbeer will look at him and he'll just like, by the great goddess's taut backside, you're just a farmer? Oh, these Arboreans, cut from good stock they are. Those war wounds will let you bed many women. It's a blessing from the goddess herself.
Yeah,
you shall sire many children.
Yeah, Sheehan looks up at Blogbeer and says, "Just imagine if he were a true great warrior of the nobles of the Arboreans, he could possibly fell you with, possibly just he mimics putting his finger up his nose and blowing out one side."
I tend to agree with that. If he is just a humble farmer, then the glory would be to see an actual warrior in combat, trained.
They are. Our cousins are great warriors.
Dvorak, he again, he smiles at that, and he kind of winces as smiling puts pressure on that broken cheekbone. And he says, well, we don't differentiate between noble and farmer. Each one of us, in the eyes of Lekra, stands a lion. So, of course, there are many heroes amongst our kin, but we are all cut from the same cloth.
Is there like any women Arborians around here fighting or like fighting up or anything?
Yes, there is a tall, beautiful, blonde-haired woman who is walking over as we speak.
Good, because Blockbeard is going to try to just talk up this farmer warrior and show him how much badass he is and get him some sweet pun. Give him some of that pun there. So he will just he'll talk to this woman like, oh yes, this one here took down at least 50 in one swipe. A great warrior himself, indeed. I could barely keep up in the battle. This is just an ogre of a man here. Yes, he'll slap him on the back, forgetting the fact that he's wounded. Just try. Yes. See, he's already ready for mating. You should take him now while his loins are burning with the fires of victory. He will give you a great many strong children.
She ignores you at this point, kind of with this like dismissive hand wave as she walks over.
Oh,
she
I didn't persuade. That's why.
She bends over and she grabs a fistful of the front of his shirt, and he's like, no, and she pulls him into a kiss, and he just goes into her lips as he's putting pressure on that broken cheekbone, and she drops him there, and he gives her a look that curdles milk, and she smiles back with the with his blood dripping off of her face, and she looks back up at Blogfear again in ogreish. She says, I know what he's capable of. That's my mate.
I've never been more aroused in the middle of battle.
I hear you worship Carnage. There is a shrine to Carnage in along one of the tradeways just outside of our village.
Blogbeard lights up and with just like a boy, a kid in a candy store, like, really now? I have not been to one of her great temples.
But it's a shrine, not a temple.
I'll have to visit that.
Over there, man. Oh,
I
wait.
think his baking pan's ready.
Sorry, go for it, man.
I will have to visit this shrine or no temple. It's still a temple to Carnage. I will have to make a pilgrimage there. If you weren't already priorly engaged, I would take you right here on the bridge. But that's neither here nor there. Excuse me.
She laughs at that. She shoots a look over to Shihan, however. Oh wait, no, he stepped away here. No, what she says is, no, there is but one priest to Carnage as I know of it. He is an ogre still. He goes by the name of Veer, and that's I'll send that to you in chat here.
Blogbeard will look for a dead Atlantean, and then grab his head, pull his spine out, and take it as a trophy, to an offering to Carnage at the shrine.
Predator style, as would be.
Yeah, just, the predator screech.
So, the blonde here introduces herself as Frigith. Frigith Three Braids is actually her name. And as you know, her hair is kind of like this big, wavy, almost like a Shakira kind of wavy, and it's all like pulled back into 3 primary looking braids slash dreadlocks back there.
Does her hips lie or they don't lie?
No, they don't lie. She can kill you with those things. She's got the kind of the frame of like a mountaineer or a ranger of some kind. But she looks across the way at Shihane. Shihane looks at his horns, and she goes, "Good to see one of our cousins is so far from home." And she goes, "Lad," kind of questioning if he's.
I am a bit more seasoned than my horns would indicate.
Oh, I see. I apologize.
No, it is fine. It's a bit of a bit of my shame that my horns are not more mature than they should be at this time. But they experienced well, a mishap.
You had your horns removed. I'm familiar with the ritual.
I don't like to speak of it possible, but
We will never speak of it again then.
thank you. We've been traveling, hunting these this cult of the darkened face. Have you heard of them?
Yes, I have heard of them. However, um, uh, our shaman, our priest of Lekra, Odim, would know more. He has actually spoken with their leader, Endukaga.
Kaga. Yes, that name does sound familiar. Yes, I do. I do intend to sit down and speak with him as soon as possible. I was going to make sure that the heroes of the day, though, were returned to a good rest and a good meal, so they can begin to heal. Before I did that, so, but yes, I do. I do wish to speak with him soon.
Well, when he is finished, and she actually points him out, kind of like points at him in the crowd with her forehead, just like over there. He's looks like he's tending to some of our wounded, but when he's finished, we're all going back to the field, so you may as well walk with us. She kind of like throws like a somewhat of a worried look over her right shoulder, looking across the river. Going across the river and south is where you guys came from, and that's you guys. What you did is you left the Suncrest Valley, and then now you're on the Arborian border. So that's where you are geographically.
Okay. So, okay, then in that case, I'll gather my stuff up and motion for Blogbeer to come along if you would, and go over and see if I can assist this priest in any way. I'm not really a healer. Our healer died, but I do have his kit with us though. Some of the herbs and such he had in there, and the poultices and such might be of use. So
okay, they gladly take your aid. We'll just kind of quick like skip through that, and it's Odim is actually his name. He notices you. He nods, and he does agree that you and he will have words. He actually words it like that, so you don't know if you're in trouble or not. On the way back to their village. But as you are about to leave and disperse, they put Warwick on what would be a kind of a sledge, kind of a, and then they pull him along. However, he doesn't have any broken bones, but being pulled across the craggy and the rocky ground that is the Arborean steppe is not comfortable for an invalid.
Hey, Blogbeer, I bet you can make his ride a bit smoother.
What do you have in mind?
Well, you can just sort of pick the fellow up and carry him. You're more comfortable being dragged across the ground like that, don't you think?
Okay.
I'll cover your flank just in case some wild ass comes up and decides she wants to have her way with you.
Oh, well, thank you. You're a good friend.
Yes, yes.
I'll just attach the spine to my belt and sheath my war club on the ring there on my back and just pick up him in the sled and just carry him like a baby. Just hold him.
Well,
With him.
Warwick really doesn't have much in the way of a protest. He kind of gives you a look where, oh, this is gonna eat some of my dignity, being carried around like a babe.
I see this and I'm like, do not worry, friend. This is an honor. You are a victor of this battle, a champion, and you shall be raised on a pedestal as such. And I'll be there. Make way for the hero of the battle. Everyone, make way.
you put him on your shoulder so I can see him.
Okay, I'll pick him up off the sled, let the sled fall down, and just set him on my shoulder and lean up against my head, I guess.
He's got kind of he doesn't have a limp, but he is quite heavily favoring that left leg. But he kind of grabs a fistful of one of your dreadlocks and as a kind of a handle to hold on to, and he just kind of weakly waves down at everybody. And he goes, "All right, now you don't fall because I don't think I can survive." He points to the ground. I don't think I can go head first into that.
If you do fall, have the common decency to let go of my hair. I don't need it ripped out.
Oh, well, I hope you fall on me so I die instantly.
You're not that lucky, my friend. You have to live with your shame and your dignity being erased as you fall.
Yeah. It doesn't have much to say to that. As Odim comes across and walks next to Shihan as you guys are escorted back to Odin's Rill is what the village is called. Odin just looks over. So you wish to speak to me about the cult of the darkened face?
Yes.
Let's hear it.
They recently were involved with raiding a tomb of one of the ancient wizards, one known as Ghost Owl.
I am familiar with Ghost Owl's teachings, yes.
And they, from what we could see, they pilfered his ancient book of spells. And I did hear them speaking of something that so far none of the Bushkas of the mortals understood, but you may. Looking for something called the Black Halo. And it did not sound like a good thing for the world, seeing that they're disrupting the harvest rites, all about causing the Reaper King to run amok, if you will, almost seeming to use his displeasure as a weapon, bastardizing the pacts and such that have been made so that he can exact vengeance for them, it seems, time and time. And it happened to Blockveer's people. A friend of ours before, one of the mortals, his village was destroyed by a raid by these beings, and meaning as the Reaper King that had come to exact their vengeance for the failure of them to properly do the rites, which the Atlanteans seem to always show up just after this happens and move in and They seem to have at least been stopped this time by your people. But I fear that at some point in the future, that the goal is actually to have both sides weaken the other, so that this cult can. I don't know if they wish to try to lay claim to the land, or slap people into chains along with the Atlanteans as well. I'm not sure exactly what their end goal is, but I don't think they have the best interest of the people here in their minds.
The priest nods grimly as he takes in all of your words. That is disquieting news. I had spoken with their leader, or one of them, immortal by the name of Endukaga. He he is quite fearful of my people. I know what he needs, and he is fearful of taking it from us, as he was refused by the king. He wishes to know where the entrance to Thermatras is.
He was also the one who was in charge of the excavation of the tomb. Um, and I had heard that many of his people had been raiding tombs all about the area. In fact, his I don't know what to call them, because I am not versed in the ways of the magics and such. But his followers, those who learn under him, seem to favor the wearing of funerary garments. What the dead is dressed in.
That is a cabal of necromancers.
Uh, why do they? Well, that would be a dumb question, I think.
Why do they wear the burial shrouds of the dead? Well,
Well,
to
yeah,
emulate such a thing, I suppose. Necromancy is a foul magic. The dead should be left to rest, as you know.
do a quick cunning test real quick to see. Okay, yeah, okay. He's familiar with the word necromancy and what it means. So
Oh yeah, he would
yeah,
know. Most fair folk know.
yeah. So yes, he and his apparently like to play with dead things.
Oh, they like to study the dead. They like to manipulate and control the spirits of the recently departed.
So be overseers for a departed friend's fields in the afterlife. Let's,
Necromancers have a fascination with the afterlife, as if they wish to go there prematurely.
I can help them with that.
Many of us like to.
So, so have you heard word of them? You said this one fellow was looking for the entrance to what was that place again?
Thermatras, the inner world, is where
Ah,
the greater Fae come from.
oh,
It's also a word that he would know. All
yes,
folk children know
yes.
the word.
Well, that is one being I would not want anywhere near Formatras. Although I did overhear a conversation. I studied these necromancers for a bit, followed them about, wandered into their camp unseen, and overheard many of their conversations. And there is something about the moons being in the correct position soon for something, some kind of ritual. I fear. I think that's what they wanted the spell book for, was something in that that book they needed to do or wanted to do. I'm not sure exactly, but I'm I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard tale the tomb was of wardens,
Yes.
and I did not think that those who practiced necromancy and could practice the same arts as wardens. I thought that was forbidden.
It is forbidden,
And,
but one could capture one's materials and then pervert them and
uh,
use them for one's own arts. Say, uh, wardens use the spirits of the natural world, be it the animals, the trees, the rocks, the river, that sort of thing. Possibly even the flame of a campfire. And these materials can be perverted in a deathly manner, which they can then use for their studies. They cannot use the same materials unless one is such corrupted in a way to make it useful.
And this smacks of being wrong.
It is very wrong. Wizards, magicians, they have a feeling for each other. They have a respect for each other, but they don't mingle.
It seems that these have no respect for their fellows then. If they're raiding tombs of wardens and taking their spell books, they must have dark aims.
You came from Ghost Owl's tomb before? That valley
Yes.
is full of warden tombs. The entire valley is a graveyard full of them.
Then they may have raided more than one tomb.
Then I suggest we join forces to stop them.
I think we should, yes. So I truly think we should. So
As you guys get back to Odin's Rill, Blogvir, you're bade to set Warwick down by one of the wells there.
All right, I do. I set him down by the well, make sure he don't fall in.
And the priest, Tashihan, would you excuse me a moment? He walks over to Warwick and he calls the attention of the village. He forcefully grabs Warwick's wrist and then raises his wrist above his head. And he kind of just bellows to the rest of this village. Did you see him? Do you see him in the battle? There's kind of like this ripple that goes through the crowd, just like, oh, there's people that kind of, and some cheers go out. He goes, I dub Warwick. You will now be known as Warwick the Wild. And then the entire village goes nuts as Warwick has been given a title. And he turns to Blogvir with this big grin on his face and his arms stretched out towards Blogvir, and he walks over. And as he's not nearly as fucking big as Blogvir is, he just grabs his hand and then just with two hands raises his hand above his head, raises Blogvir's hand above his head, and he goes, all right, what's your name?
Blogvir.
And I will dub this ogre Blogvir the Bloodletter. And all the warriors banging their swords on the shield as the whole village. He lets go of you. He goes, you are welcome here in this village.
Thank you. There's a bunch of honorable warriors here. It's a fine village.
Friggath goes to lean on the well next to Warwick as she puts an arm around him. She rests her head on his shoulder. They have a bit of an intimate moment here. And the priest comes back over to Shihan. Excuse me, it is a duty of our faith to award titles when they are earned, especially on our lands and when we are present in battle.
I understand. So, and you honor my friend Blogvir greatly. He gives him a little bow. And thanks.
As you know now, and you can likely surmise that I am unable to leave my village now that I have plenty of wounded, and the Atlantean threat is much closer than I would have liked. I would like to charge you and your number with finding these cultists and doing away with them.
Shihan grins, a bit too widely, maybe, and he says, "It would be my pleasure."
I don't require any trophies or proof of such a thing. Your expression and your demeanor tell me that you are more than up to the task and that you will indeed complete it with no small amount of blood behind you.
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, feeding the blood of those Atlanteans to the river honors a friend of mine. So, he is known as the Pike King and is down the river from here, along the Gray River.
Uh, is this a king of the mortals down to the
No,
tribes? Have they unified?
not of the mortals. He is one of the Fey Court.
Oh, his eyes kind of go wide to that. Oh, you are a servant to a court now, then.
I am of his court, yes.
Oh, I see. I apologize. I was not aware that I was speaking to an agent of the Unseelie.
It's it's no great thing. You were doing well by your people, which is always the greatest honor anyone can do. And allowing me to witness such a thing um, brings honor to me and to my lord.
He nods, and I hope that Lekra gives him his blessing that he rightly deserves. And I hope that you, a vengeful spirit for him and your fallen compatriots,
Mhm.
I wish you pleasant hunting. He gives you kind of a short bow, and he makes the sign of Lekra in the air for you.
Okay.
Fair winds to you.
Okay. I bow and say thank you for the blessing. And
He dismisses himself after that. So you, Blogfear, Warwick, Friggith, and actually, no, that's just the four of you are kind of left there in the square as the village slowly comes down off of that adrenaline high of battle, and kind of everyone disperses back to what they were supposed to be doing.
yeah, back to the fields and the cows.
Finally, Corwin comes up. He's wearing a leather hauberk for his size, and he's got a sword, a bronze sword, likely again made for his underdeveloped boyish arms, and you do see there's a little bit of blood on the edge of one of them, and Blogvir might be particularly surprised at a 12-year-old, as the humans would be. He's got a bit of blood spattered on his face. He's got like half a shield that's been smashed. Yeah.
It seems I was born in the wrong race. Even the children here are in war. It's glorious.
So the boy looks all the way up at Blogfair and kind of with this wide-eyed look.
I'm just all I see is just blood and a grin, a toothy grin. I'm just covered and caked in semi-dried blood.
And the boy attempts to speak Ogreish. He's got the accent wrong, and he's clearly like on the Dora the Explorer kind of teaching you Ogreish kind of level. He's trying, all right. The boy's giving it a good shot, but he uses the horrible syntax. He goes, "So that's an ogre. Oh, you're the first one I've ever seen."
Oh, well. You should work on your ogreish before you meet any more. You don't want to offend the wrong people.
And Warwick looks over. Yes, that's No, Corwin. Yeah, those are ogres. They live south and to the west, and in the mountains. They also live amongst mortals in the plains and in the woodlands. We don't have many up here, but there are some.
How many fell to your blade, youngling? 50, 60?
I only had 7 on my blade today, and he just kind of flicks the gore from his sword on the floor, on the muddy ground.
For future reference, you should put a 0 behind that for the ladies. You just give him a wink.
Oh, okay. he grins.
Sheehan laughs as he hears this. He says, young man, 7 is by no means a small thing, even for one that's full grown. Well done.
He just nods grimly.
I'm going to take my semi-dried bloody hand and just stick it on his leather hauber chest plate and leave like a hand, an imprint of blood on his chest there.
Now he's got a big ogre hand on his breastplate.
There. Now you're even more ferocious. You'll be beating off the women with a stick.
He kind of drops what's left of his shield in the mud, and he kind of he grabs a bit of what would be kind of like a fighting skirt, and kind of like squeezes out a bunch of the blood, as his hair is kind of a little bit longer, and it's kind of in his face, and he actually just slicks his hair back with the blood. As it kind of like drips down and say, "Oh God, shit's in my eye now." And Warwick just, Corwin, go wash up. You look like a mess. He's, oh, all right. Excuse me. He snaps a bow to Blogbear and Sheehan. He gathers up all of his shit and then runs off into the village.
Don't forget, go by the women first before you wash. Show them that you were in battle.
You're encouraged with Logbeer. He's a bit too young yet for that still.
If he's old enough to kill, he's old enough to,
Well, for a moment, a look of wistfulness passes across Sheehan's face, remembering the good times he had as a child, very much like that young fellow there. He says, it's so sad that he has to go through this at such a young age.
No, it's glorious. I wish I went through this when I was his age. The thrill of battle, not knowing if you're going to live or die, the warm blood splash across your face. Yeah, that would have been fantastic.
Although I would have wished a few more years of peace for him to be able to run through the fields as a young man and discovering the things that peace can bring before he had to become so bloody.
And trails off.
At this point, Corwin has only seen battle now twice, so he's not seen much. He's actually supposed to be. She kind of shoots kind of a half glare, not a disapproving look, not like a sarcastically disapproving look, at the boy who's running off into the village. He's supposed to be studying to become a priest.
Well, maybe if we can sort this cult of the darkened face out, he may yet still be able to.
I hope you do so. I can give you whatever information that I have as I range through that valley that they hide in. I pass through there every season or so.
If you could by chance give us an idea of where the other tombs might be, so we might be able to see which ones have been pilfered and which ones have not, and maybe set an ambush for these beings. I'd like to get my hands on one of their the ones who wear the funerary garments, so I could ask them a few questions very pointedly.
Oh, I can mark out the tombs that I know of, which I know of most of them on a map for you. That's easy.
That would be really appreciated. That and possibly a warm bed for the night, and maybe some. He looks down at himself. I don't know if your people have any cast off clothing, but anything would be better than what I currently have. So,
We'll find you clothes.
thank you.
She looks up at Blogveer. I'm quite certain a couple of the ogres would be more than happy to pass on some spare clothes. And possibly some of the ogre women that live here might be willing to spend some time with you, great warrior.
Logbear kind of looks away and like, no, I will go back to the river and wash. Yes. Excuse me. Pardon me. We just walks off, goes towards the river to wash off.
And an explanation.
Did I touch a nerve?
He is trying to find his love, who was taken by the Atlanteans as a slave.
Oh my.
Although I'm sure he understands the offer for the honor that it would be. I don't believe you offended him. Just made him think of better days.
I see. We will fast forward sometime into the early evening as you guys have been given accommodation, ogre-sized accommodation to hopefully have Blogveer lay down in a proper bed, finally.
That would be nice.
But before we do so, we'll follow Blogveer down to the riverside. And we will have a brief soliloquy as describe for us what he does. Does he bathe? Give us a window into his thoughts and his heart.
He goes down to the river's edge and he begins taking off his armor piece by piece until he's stark naked. And then he'll look at the river and think of before when such a sight would just give him extreme fear and panic. But then he would just look down at his small pouch that he wears around his neck and remember his friend, his comrade Gilfek, and how he told him, it's just water, Blog. It's not going to hurt you. And Gilfek is with him now more than ever. And water is just water to him now. If he's going to die, he's going to die in battle and not by some water. It's not going to hurt him. So he wades into the river and begins bathing. As he watches the blood just run off his body, he'll wring out his dreadlocks and begin scrubbing and trying to get the caked blood off of him. He'll just remember his friend Gilfek and the time they had together, and he'll remember all the words of wisdom that he told him that he may have thought didn't stick with Blogveer, but they did, and how his fear is irrational and the strength and courage he gives him. And as he's finally washing off the last remnants of blood, he'll get back to his armor and begin scrubbing it, getting the dry blood off his armor and the gore off of his club and everything. And he'll just think back to the first time he laid eyes on Kaya when she was coming in to the village from her farm. She had a basket full of various vegetables, and she was the most gorgeous creature Logver had ever seen. And he'll just think of how he felt that day, where his heart was going to explode through his chest. His palms were sweaty. He never felt this way before at all. He didn't know what it was. He thought he was dying, some ailment or something. And he just came to find out it was love. and he just remembers the first time he got the nerve up to talk to her, and how he began the process of courting her, and the numerous tasks that he did for her. And he remembers the first time that he tended to her garden, and he was horrible at it. He was no farmer, but he didn't butcher it completely. There were some crops that still made it. Some flowers didn't die, but she saw the sincerity in him, and instead of casting him off without a second thought for another suitable mate, she saw him for the kind-hearted big oaf that he was, and she let him have a second chance. And then he'll remember the first time he held hands, and he thought he was going to die. He thought he was just going to fall to the earth and be consumed from the joy that it brought him. And he remembers the first time he saw Gilfek, and he saw that big walking magnificent beard, and all these good times just flood through his memories as he looks down his armor that he's been washing the same piece for he doesn't know how long now. As he was training back into his thoughts just trail off, and he goes back to the task of making sure his armor, all of his armor, is clean, and he sets the task of putting it back on. And he takes one last look at the sun as it's probably starting to set in the horizon. He just sees the sky probably painted an orange, a nice hue, and he just thinks back, and he'll just, I hope you're having a good time, Gil. I hope your crops are plentiful, and I hope your wife has made up for the time you spend apart. I'll see you sometime, my friend. Until then, I'll be sending you some slaves to do your work for you. Spend more time with the missus. He'll just trek back to the village, sopping wet. He had no means to dry himself off, but he'll just let it air dry as it is. As he'll gather his belongings and make the trek back to the village. Sad, but it's a happy sadness. He just remembers these fond times, and he remembers that they're taken away from him. But he will, vengeance will be his. He will get his revenge, and he will get what is owed to him, one way or the other. As he heads back, traipsing through the village, leaving behind puddles behind him.
As you are kind of lost in your own thoughts, you don't notice that there is another entity that's maybe about a dozen feet down the bank from you. She seems to be washing clothes in the river. This decrepit old hag thing with this deep hood. You look closer. She seems to be washing armor. It's not Arborian armor. It's Atlantean armor. And she picks up an Atlantean hand. Like a hand attached to a forearm, like a disembodied fucking arm. And she's like using that thing as a sponge, kind of like washing the breastplate, but she's kind of like just smearing blood all over it. And she's dunking it in the water, splashing water all over the place. And you just kind of see this macabre, horribly ugly thing, this horrible hag. You don't know if she's a babushka or not, but there's a kind of an otherworldly eeriness to her. What does Blockveer do?
Blockveer will he'll stop from going back to the village, and he'll look at this woman, this thing, and he'll call out, "Hail there! Are you a babushka?" And he'll call out in, I guess, Nemercian first. He doesn't know what to speak, and he doesn't know Arborian, so he'll call out in Nemercian first and see if she responds at all. I mean, he's curious. It's a morbid curiosity. He's curious why this decrepit old thing is using a disembodied Atlantean hand. He can only assume to wash an Atlantean breastplate. And he admires her for her morbidness in a way. But he's also kind of like, maybe she's not right in the head. Maybe it's somebody's babushka that's wandered off to the river. She's thinking she's washing clothes, but she's losing her mind up there in years. And he might think she's lost or something. So he's going to try to help her if he can, and hopefully not die, because he does feel like this might not actually be a woman. But at the same time, if it is, he can't just leave her here. So but he's not like up on her. He's a decent ways away. He's not getting close to her yet.
You're about a dozen yards away, we'll say.
So he'll call out. He'll call out to her in the Mercian first and see if she responds or acknowledges him in any way.
She kind of jerks, almost as if she's like startled for a moment, and then she very creepily turns in your direction, like very fucking slow. It takes about an hour for her to almost seemingly look in your direction. Her eyes are two glowing green pricks under that hood, and this sense of horrible fear and dread just strikes at your core. And you hear this horrible thing speak to you in Nemercian. As I feel your thoughts. She kind of points this horrible arthritic finger over you. I see that you are pining for a lost love. I see. She's like circulating this. She's drawing a circle with her index and bony fucking index finger at you as she stands so slowly. She drops this Atlantean kit into the mud and the sand on the side of the river there, and she starts fucking walking towards you. And
Blackbeard takes a step back. He's not scared of a lot of things. Not even water anymore. But this thing, he might have sold himself. He's not sure. He's locked in sheer terror. This sheer terror. He thought that this was just some old, lost, crazy babushka. This is some fiend from the netherworld. For all he knows, this is some demon sent straight from the bowels of hell to come and take him away. He is right frightened. He can't tell if he's glad he's soaking wet, because he can't tell if he pissed himself either. So he takes a big step back because this creature is coming to him. Oh, he's right. He's very startled and disturbed.
She keeps coming, man. She keeps coming. She doesn't run. She just keeps walking for you.
That's fine there, Babushka. There's no need to get closer. And she just takes another step back. I'll just go on my way. Didn't mean to disturb you. Enjoy your washing.
No, you must stay, and we'll have a chat.
We can chat from right here. No need to get closer.
She doesn't stop, man. She keeps walking.
Blackbeard will keep walking backwards, but he's not looking behind him. He will not take his eyes off this thing. He's too scared to reach for his weapon. He's just, all he can do is walk backwards. His eyes are wide with fear and terror.
So you're kind of backed up against a tree as you back into it.
He slams into it, and he doesn't even realize he's back into a tree. He keeps trying to walk backwards because he's coming. He's too scared. He can't take his eyes off this thing. He's like, this is it. This is how he dies. This old creature is going to come and suck his soul and devour his body. And next thing you know, they'll see his hand washing his breastplate and this thing. The next poor bastard is going to come down and get taken by this creature.
And what happens is you get close, and she's got, oh my god, on the scale, on the skill of allure. Okay, allure is how attractive you are, and no grades in allure it doesn't mean you're fucking ugly. It means that you haven't taken care of yourself. You haven't done anything to become more attractive, and does that sort of thing. She's got like a -8 in her fucking allure. No, dude. And so she's horrible. It's warty and fucking hairy. She's got a fucking mustache, and she comes across, And she's like right up on you, dude. And she reaches out, she grabs your fucking hand, or she grabs like a finger on your fucking hand. She grabs it, and it's fucking freezing, this hand. And she goes, "Come down here." She yanks on it.
Bloodbear's like shaking. He has pissed himself. He knows this now. He's shaking like he's freezing to death. He's like it's subarctic like weather. He's freezing. He's shaking. His eyes are so wide. It's unearthly wide. They're gonna break. Terror is on his face. Like he can't move. He's frozen in fear.
So she jerks you one more time. She brings you down to your knees, and you fucking look into that horrible nightmarishness. Every terrible grimace a grandma could fucking make. Like every babushka, ugly fucking babushka times 10 and evil as shit is on her face. She looks into your eyes and she goes, she holds up that fucking finger she's been wiggling in your direction. She goes, "I will give you a vision."
Blogbear, he can't say nothing. He's just like, he maybe stutters. He's like, he is completely just fear shocked by this thing. He thinks he's gonna die. I think this is it. She's gonna give him a vision of his death before she tears his heart out or something.
And she pokes his nose. And she pokes it fucking hard. And it's a cold as shit nose, man. It like, if it was cold enough and like you stick your tongue on a telephone pole and your fucking tongue sticks to that shit, her finger sticks to your fucking ogre nose. And she yanks it away, which fucking hurts like the dickens. And you are filled with this, just, you're not with her or it, or whatever the fuck. You're not where you're supposed to be anymore. But you're clothed. You're wearing what would pass as like the wedding attire for like for ogres, like a wedding ceremony. It's this big stark white sash. You got a dark green sash belt tying it fucking close. And then you see Kaya standing there. She's waiting for you at this altar while, you know, this priest of whatever god that she worships is there to do the ceremony, and under the signs of your guys' ancestors, you will be wed and you will be bound together in the most passionate, beautiful love that all of the gods will recognize. But that's just an instant of this shit. It's just bam, bam, and it's gone. You're completely aware of that scene. But the next thing, and the most horrifying fucking part about this shit, is you see Kaya working in a garden wearing like the clothes that she had when they took her. Keep in mind that they have been repaired and cleaned, and she's also wearing a couple implements that look vaguely Atlantean in fashion, but ogre-sized. And she's working in a fucking garden while this Atlantean nobleman is watching her fucking do it. And he's like sitting on a chair. He's not like looking at her like lustfully or anything. He's just watching her work. And it just sets in like, holy fuck. Is this real? Am I alive? Am I dead? Is this the afterlife? No. The love of my life is alive, and she is being forced to work the garden of my arch fucking nemesis. And it sinks into you that Atlantean nobleman is the commander governor of the Atlantean colony, and he was present at that last battle that you guys got your asses whipped at. And then you snap back into the present. That fucking horrible creature is gone. You're still fucking naked. and you're on all fours, and huge, ugly ogre tears well up in your eyes. What does Bloodfear do?
He weeps like a baby. He begins crying, tears of joy and sorrow that this has to be real. This it felt real. It is real. It has to be. That she's alive, but she's also being she's held prisoner, but she's alive. She's being forced to work this disgusting fish fucker's farm. These tears of joy just turn to tears of anger and hatred as he just pounds the dirt and the mud, and he gets up and gathers his armor, and it begins to half run back to the village to tell Shihan what he's seen. And he may be going crazy, but if anybody knows what's going on, it'll be Shihan. So he just take his armor and damn near run naked to the village with armor in tow, as fast as he can. Like he has to tell Shihan what's going on, what's transpired down here, and maybe he's losing his mind. Maybe Shihan's gonna have to put him out of his misery, like an old horse or an old work mule that's just too old to work. He doesn't know what's going on now, but he has to tell Shihan. He knows that, so he books it, stark naked, armor and everything, and under his arm as he's just running to the village.
So I'm sure I could hear him approaching.
Oh, yeah. So, well, sorry, I was muted there for a moment. What we'll do is Blogveer has been gone for several hours, and it's probably about 8:30 in the evening, so sun has already set, and you guys are back at your hut. That's how we'll bring it to the present.
Okay.
The floor is yours now.
Okay. So Sheehan's probably letting his hair dry in the air after finally getting cleaned up, and donning the clothing that he's been given by these Arborians, and they don't fit quite exactly right, but they'll do. And he hears this crashing noise of something quickly approaching. He looks around for his bow, which unfortunately he's back inside because he felt safe, and he picks up one of the knives that he was using to cut some of his hair and chat back just a bit. Looks up and sees Blogveer come charging, stark naked out of the forest, carrying his stuff under his arm. His eyes get big, and then he slams his eyes shut. This is, I did not want to see that ever. Says it's very, very lovely.
Shihan!
What?
Shihan! She's alive. She's alive. The old demon by the water told me. She showed me a vision. Kaya's alive. She's being held by the commander governor of the fish fuckers. We gotta go liberate her. She's alive. He's out of breath. He's sweating. He's his feet are caked in mud and dirt.
Slow down, Blogger. I mean, I don't speak your language or the language we're speaking that well. Did you say that a demon by the river told you that your beloved is alive and being held captive somewhere?
I switched to Feywise because I forgot that just in Ogreish it's instinctive. But I was bathing at the river and there was this old babushka, so I thought she was washing a Atlantean breastplate, a shield with a disembodied hand, and I thought she was lost, but she was a demon. She held me in her icy gaze, and she touched me on the nose, and I saw things. I saw visions. Shihan, I saw Kaya, and I saw her being wed. We were being married, and then she's in the garden, and I see the commander governor of the fish fuckers there watching her. She's alive. She's alive. We have to go rescue her. We have to.
We can. We definitely can. There's one thing we'll have to find out first. Where she's being held, where he's at, where their farm is.
It has to be the main colony for the Atlantean invasion. It has to be their main base. He must be there.
Could be, but we don't know where that is. So what we need to do is we need to capture one of these that are working with them and find out.
Yes, you're right. I mean, quickly putting his armor on, and his boots on, everything. His pauldrons begins getting dressed.
Calm down. It's night. You need to rest first. You've had a long day. We can't go right this thing. Yes, she is. Here, come. He goes over and gets a pitcher of the good beer they brew here and starts to pour it in a cup. Shrugs and hands the entire pitcher to him.
Yeah, Blogger grabbed the pitcher and just quaffs it down. He's running down his beard like, she's alive. She's alive. One of his pauldrons is barely just dangling on his and clasp it right. He's like, she's alive, Shihan. She's alive. He picks up, grabs Shihan in a bear hug and spins him around. She's alive.
Shihan, after he's put down, stands there for a moment and shudders because he was just picked up by a half-naked ogre. And he says, yes, he is. It is time to celebrate. Yes, let's tell our new friends all about this. Come. You need to tell stories of her to the people here. They love stories of that, of love and loss and great, rescues and such. In fact, you may find yourself with some allies who will help us do this, because I don't think we're going to just walk into the Atlantean base and ask for her and receive her. So we'll need some help.
Blogger has like his boots on and like his like long johns, his pants on. He has one pauldron clasped on. He didn't have his gambus and his undershirt on. He said with one pauldron on. He said shirtless. He's obviously not in his right mind. He's got a nice buzz on from the beer, and he goes out just screaming into the night. She's alive, everyone! Everyone, she's alive! And he just starts trying to grab any drink he can. Just try to get shit faced.
Yes, at this point, Shihan's main mission is to get Blogbeer completely drunk so he'll pass out and get some rest. So,
a quiet ogre is what the entire village wants.
yes, we shall help.
Will certainly help you get Blogveer 3 sheets to the wind, and he quite almost can knock down a liquor store himself. But
you have to have the reserve of alcohol. And they're like, God damn it, who's going to reimburse us?
But no, Arborians can drink like demons themselves. But anyway, now you regale your new companions and your neighbors with stories of Kaya's beauty, and they listen very intently.
And I probably go into more graphic detail than I should, being 3 sheets to the wind, like you said. So I may just describe her in a more erotic way than I should have, just in my mind, like, oh yeah, those wide birthing hips, that firm derriere. Oh. just go off and on a small tirade of how beautiful she is.
Oh well, that's they don't even the women, they don't they are not offended by such graphic things. However, they do shoo the children away from such talk.
How her breasts are so massive and supple that she could nurse thousands of children on them, and they will still be perfect as the day they first met her. And he just goes into graphic detail on such things. Kind of like his ogre body leaning like an arm against somebody, like, oh yeah, probably crushing him. He's just drunk out of his mind. He's like enough alcohol to knock an elephant down. He's just fucking gone.
So you pass out sometime late into the evening and are a distant thunderstorm when you're snoring. Does Shihane actually partake of the ample beer that is thrown?
Oh yes. Shihane will. He won't quite drink as much as Blogbeer, obviously, because he can't contain as much as Blogbeer. He'll definitely get a nice warm feeling and nurse a mug, and he'll intersperse Blogbeer's tales with a few songs of his people, and possibly 1 or 2 songs of that he knows of the Arborians as well.
They are actually quite impressed by the fact that you know a few of their songs. They are very welcome to hear a fair folks voice sing such a thing.
Okay, I definitely sing them and do it fairly well, but 14. So as I said, I'll intersperse that with a few tales of what we've been doing, and even if they once it gets a little later in the night, to sort of a scary tale, tell them the tale of the great beasts that lurk in the swamps to the south.
Oh my God, you're never gonna
No,
that.
that hunt fair folk as they sleep. And you thought I'd forgotten, didn't you?
No, I knew you wouldn't forget. Come on.
Great legends. So this is how they begin.
Of course.
And he even tries a little bit out of a bit of a song he's been sort of putting together in his head about the whole situation. So called the Gulping Dragon.
Oh, beautiful. So the night passes with no small amount of drinking and merriment. And you wake up probably somewhere just, we'll say about 11 o'clock. You guys slept in a few hours, as Arborian brew is indeed that powerful. It does not take Fae very long to become very inebriated on such a thing, but ogres can keep up with the rest of the best of Arborian kind. Now, as you are just rousing yourselves, what do you do that next day?
Blogbeer will stumble to his feet. Well, probably crawl around first for waiting for his equilibrium to come back. Then he'll stumble to his feet and have a little bit of the hair of the dog to wake him up, and then he will begin getting dressed the proper way, trying not to fall on anybody or anything. And he takes it slow. He's pretty hungover. He takes it slow and just tries to get his engine started, so to speak, start revving it up here. So that's what he's doing.
Sheehan's gonna look for Warwick and possibly that priest if he's available, and see if we can find a map to start marking where these tombs might be that we need to go look at and make sure aren't being despoiled.
Othin, the priest, is gone. He's actually traveled to the next village at this time. But
Okay.
Warwick is actually standing out front of his home, kind of just tending to a hide that he's tanning. It looks like a great big buck hide.
Okay. I can assist with that while we're talking.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you, I won't make you roll for it, but you go in next to him and you guys can begin talking there.
Okay. So as we talk about these raids and such. So is this the first encounter you've had this close to your village of the Atlanteans?
This is the first time the Atlanteans have attempted to cross the river. They've never come this far. They're getting quite bold, and as you witnessed yesterday, that our people are not fond of this idea.
Unfortunately, the Atlanteans tend to, well, when they see a challenge, from what I understand, they tend to throw more resources at it if they're pushed back. So, do you have a forge master here, a smith, to begin making some of the implements of war, possibly? Or do you know of someone nearby we could trade with? We might want to do that to help your people defend themselves better.
Othin is taking care of that currently in the next village.
Good man, then. Good man.
someone has sent an eagle to the king, and they will hopefully be sending word, reinforcements, uh, soldiers, that sort of thing.
Well, hopefully, if we can overturn their plans, this cult, maybe at that point they won't be backing the Atlanteans as much, and they may see the flaw in their plan of invading the land of your people, if that's what they truly wish to do, which they've shown no reason not to be.
They would be fools if that is their road that they'd wish to travel.
They are warlike, and they do believe that they are. Well, from the bit I've heard from them, they do believe that they are the most powerful beings on this world.
They clearly have not crossed blades with primordials to the north of us.
No, they have not, as far as I know.
Well, they will be hard pressed against our border because we repel primordial raids from the inner world on a regular basis.
So it sounds as if your people are being squeezed between two great powers.
Well, squeezed not so much. The last time the primordials had tried to come down, we publicly sacrificed all of their prisoners that we had taken from the previous raid to Lekra in front of them before the battle ensued. They have not been back for 4 cycles.
How civilized of you. So I do wonder, have you heard by chance any news from the forest to the south? I haven't any contact from my people for obvious reasons, but I do worry about them from time to time, and I wonder if these Atlanteans have began moving among the trees yet.
I've been meaning to ask you about that. Your kind don't talk to us. Did we offend you?
Well, I offended them, so I'm not sure if I'm the person specifically to ask, but
Oh, well, no, I personally have not had any word from fair folk friends. I've not the king certainly has not met with any of them at any of the festivals of the season. No, they've nope.
well, this may change. This Atlanteans moving in may change things.
I hope that your people don't simply come up here to speak to us because they just want something.
No, they wouldn't do that. We tend to stay to our groves and our trees, and most of my people don't travel much.
I am aware.
So it's not that necessarily that you or people have offended us. It's just possible that none of my kind have come this way. I have relatives I haven't spoken with for many a cycle.
I see. Oh well, hopefully it is nothing nothing of note that keeps you away.
Not to my knowledge. Then again, I'm not privy to the inner thinkings of the court there as myself. So I was just a poor borderer myself. But wasn't really part of the nobility or those who make decisions. I just guided them on hunts.
Ah, oh, you're one of those guides, hunter guides. I see.
Yes. So
Fair enough. He kind of glances at your stunted horns, but he doesn't say anything about them.
that there is a story there, but it's not a story of. It's not the story that most people would see of as a criminal. It's more of a. By me respecting my own honor, I dishonored another and was punished because I did not have the status to defend myself properly, if you will.
Ah, I do not need to know your secrets, traveler. It'll be all right.
Well, thank you for your discretion. So,
Edith is out hunting at this time, so she should be back sometime midday then.
okay.
Sure.
I think we may spend just one more evening with you, Bryn Merrick, for work, and then I believe we'll need to be off finding and dealing with this cult because I have the feeling we don't have much time.
I don't believe you do either. From what I've heard, overheard, and he takes a long sigh from yesterday's events. I don't believe any of us are going to have a lot of time anymore.
Unfortunately. It's times like these that spice life up, though, of course. He sort of grins at that. Mhm.
Oh, I long for a little dullness.
Mhm. As do we all. I wish I could settle myself long enough to have some dullness, but
Do you have a mate back home?
I did not. No.
Oh, what stopped you?
Mm.
Or
I
was
was
the forest your lady?
I was always away. Yes, the forest was very much my lady. I was always away in the forests. I didn't much care for the as I said, the courts and some of the intrigues there. It seemed cleaner to be out in the forest among the trees and hunting animals. It was more, I don't know, more true. The hunts that are carried out among the revelers back in the more civilized part of our lands just seemed, I don't know, petty, and no one seemed to, I don't know, no one seemed to pause and literally smell the flowers. They had things that were pretty, not because they were pretty, because it gave them the status of owning that. And I did not wish to be owned or own. Um, so I stayed to the edges.
Warwick kind of smiles and he goes, "Ah, you are one of those more feral, fair folk that I have heard of." He just smiles. He goes, "You're dangerous, aren't you?"
Uh, he grins. Sheehan grins. He says, well, I was counted among the mortals of the borders of our territories being one of the forest devils. Yes.
I have heard this term, devil, being used to describe your lot. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Most of my people are, well, they hold themselves above such petty concerns of mortals. Myself, I've gained I've gained knowledge of them and more respect for them than most of my kind. So at one point, I would have seen them a little more than animals who were clever, but I've grown beyond that, I believe.
Did you know? And he actually pauses in his. He's actually he's got a brush in his hand, and he's actually brushing the a bit of the tanning chemical on this hide. Actually, sets it down, and he turns to you. He goes, "Did you know that every fall and every spring, the mortals from across the river leave offerings of fruit and bread, grain, and all sorts of other things on our side of the river in hopes that we will not take their young men and women?"
Huh.
Yeah, no, they actually, indeed, and in fact, come across the river all by themselves. It is out of our control if spring and fall is the time that we pollinate, and that is when many of our women become with child. and some of these young mortal girls wish to become with child as well, and they cross the river and they are never seen again. And he kind of gives you this one, you know why? Look, and no, that's and they leave offerings like that in hopes that so because we apparently take their children.
Yes, they are prone to superstition. That I can say. Sheehan sort of has this sort of a. It's like, yeah, he's flirted with mortals, and he's quote unquote fooled around with mortal women.
Of course.
But the idea of taking one as a wife is sort of still beyond him. That would not okay, but he's going to be polite and just not mention that. So,
Yeah, and Warwick goes back to tanning that hide, and he's actually going to go set up another one on a rack here in a few minutes.
mhm.
But as he moves to the other rack, he goes, "Well, sometimes our kind takes them as wives, sometimes not. Sometimes they stay for a few months and then they return to their lands with child, and we have no idea what happens to those children. We just don't know."
Hmm. Maybe while myself and Blogveer are out, we can maybe find out what happens to those children.
Yeah, that would be an interesting thing to
Mhm.
learn what happens to these half-caste children that happen. But fall is going to begin here in a couple months anyway.
That's true. Hmm. I wonder. Maybe we should travel across the river and see if those mortals that give offerings to you are having the same problems that the mortals in the south are having.
You likely should,
Yes,
but Othin will send you south across the river to uh, the valley in hopes to slay those cultists.
that will be a priority because at some point in the future, I think I will come back and find out what befalls those children. That intrigues me now. I didn't know for sure if our kind, well, not sure if our kind can breed with mortals. Hmm.
Oh, it is possible. I have seen it.
Huh. Oh,
Your kind, I am aware that are not fertile with mortals. Our kind are.
ah. Okay. Hmm. Things you learn about your cousins every day. He sort of, Shane sort of laughs a little bit nervously at that. Okay. I'll leave you to your tanning for now, and I'll go start preparing, getting some gear together and such to go up to the valley at first light.
Yeah, safe travels to you.
And same tanning to you. I'll head back over and try to find blog gear.
Blockbeer is still outside of our lodging. He's completely dressed and he's got his gear ready and he's just tending to his war club. Um, maybe some of the spikes bend or something. He's bending them back and straightening them out and just taking inventory of his gear and the condition it's in and just waiting on pins and needles, basically.
Well, as soon as Shihan gets there and sees Blogger, he walks over to him, looks around to see if anyone's close, and leans in conspiratorially and says, Blogger, they mate with mortals here.
Oh, what's it like?
I don't know. It's just I didn't realize that was a thing. Apparently, the mortals across the river give them offerings in the spring and fall.
Sounds like they have a good thing going then.
Well, I agree. So I definitely agree. But yes, we'll have this map tomorrow, and we'll be heading off to the south, that valley again, to find some cultists to bash about and hopefully capture one, so we can get some information about where your beloved may be, or at least, to information to someone else who may know that.
Hopefully we can catch a fish fucker and one of those necromancers. Both.
Yes, one of each, or one who is both, possibly even. I don't know if there are any Atlanteans among the necromancers, but you never know. So Sheehan is going to busy himself, and after that, sort of tuning his own gear, since Logbeer is doing the same, and cleaning the arrows and making sure that the arrows he does have are basically matched up to the others he has. That way he doesn't have to adjust his bow too much in battle to compensate.
You shouldn't have to adjust your bow or the arrows too much. They seem to be working. They seem to be in good working order. Excuse me. Sometime shortly after that, Frigith comes by with the map that she promised, and she's got marked out. There's about 30 or some odd tombs that she knows of that are spread out all over this valley that you got a really good eye for that first night when you're up on the cliff. And she says, now, if you travel about 200 miles south of this, you should be, well, no, 200. No, excuse me. No, that's not right. She takes that map back from you. She kind of redoes her math. She actually takes that map, she kind of rips it up and then throws it away, and she actually takes out another piece of paper and she redoes the whole thing in a better scale. I was walking while I did this, excuse me. And she goes, no, the coastline is much closer. It's only a several days march, and possibly less if you had horses. South of this valley is the coastline. So the Atlanteans are going to be camped out much closer than you probably think.
Yes. Do any of your people ply boats?
Not here. In the west, on the western coastline, they do.
I was hoping maybe someone here may use river trade or such, and might, once we have dealt with this valley, help us down to the south, possibly to find Blackbeard's love.
Oh, well, you can, I suppose we can trade for a boat, a small skiff to get, and she just kind of looks over at Blogbeer.
Small skiff might not quite be enough. Maybe a small barge.
I suppose a small barge, yeah, but a small barge would be a little more expensive. I'm sure that there's something laying around here that we can possibly come up with.
And if your people don't, maybe the mortals across the river know of someone who may. Or do you ever see traders upon the river, or is it?
Oh, they don't trade with us. They are quite fearful of us across the river.
Also, can you mark the shrine to Carnage? My offering is starting to get ripe.
She draws a circle and then an X in it on the map. It looks to be like a 20-minute walk outside the village, actually.
Thank you.
Maybe that's where we should go next, Bloodbeer.
Yes, I would like it very much.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Forget this is a fine map. You honor us by giving it to us. We'll do our best to make sure that this pestilence is eradicated.
Yes, the wardens there need to sleep, and they need not to be disturbed. there's plenty of wardens amongst our number, but they like to remain hidden, as you know. And as secretive as wardens are in life, they like their graves to be equally as secretive. They don't. She pauses. You understand.
Yes, I definitely understand this.
She leaves you then with this rather well detailed map. Using this map, it will give you a +4 bonus to your traveling tests on this side of the river.
Awesome. Okay. In that case, I'll go around to get some provisions for a few days out in out in the wilds. Um, Gather a bit of tinder, things like that, and just get ourselves prepared. Is this starting to get cool at all yet? Are we going to need heavier cloaks possibly, or anything like that, or blankets?
It's about mid-August at this time, so it's starting to cool off. But you've got a couple months really
Okay.
before it starts to get frigid out.
Okay, so don't worry about that. So, okay, and
Say about you have enough time to get back down to where you guys started before the leaves start to turn up here. We'll say.
in that case, I suggest we going out to the shrine and let Blogbeer make his offering.
Yes.
Like I said, just a few minutes walk outside the village to the east. Is actually what it is. It's a group of 5 trees, one of which is a dead pine tree that has seen better days. And in the center of this area, this copse of trees, is kind of a stone lantern. Almost you'd find like in almost like a Buddhist temple kind of style of stone lantern. But it's about half as tall as Blogvir is, and there's multiple tiers on this plate on this thing where you could put candles and have them burn, and there are on all 4 sides of this tower here is a stone bowl that has offerings. You see a dead squirrel in one of them. You see one that's particularly ripe with like a heart, a liver. It's got a deer head in it. And you also smell like that really sweet, really disgusting, putrid smell of kind of like a fermented fruit wine that's been poured in there, and it's just kind of mixing with this gore, and it makes this really grody soup. You smell this shrine way before you see it, and you actually see a hut, and I can't remember what this actually serves as. Keith, what is the house that a priest lives in that's right next to the church?
Um, the rectory.
Thank you. It's the house where the priest lives. Yeah.
Ah,
I keep thinking it's a reliquary. I'm like, no, that's a house where you keep all the relics if you're Catholic. Anyway, no. See, the rectory is this little like ogre-sized hut just off to the side, and you see an ogre who is sitting on like a beaten down patch of grass, and he's playing what looks to be like an ogre-sized almost looks like a string instrument, like cross between like a lute and like a biwa. And he's kind of doing this really deep baritone singing, and that you hear him and you smell this place before you see it again, and he's chanting the sutras of carnage. And of course, Blogvir knows these, and he probably might hum along. But this is the scene that you unfolds when you walk by, or you walk.
Blogger will start singing with him these mantras as he approaches.
As you start singing, he actually stops playing. It's like, oh wait, there's another voice. And he's kind of looking around for you. He actually doesn't see you. So yeah, if you continue singing, that's up to you.
I will. Let me make a roll. See what my I think I have in now. So we'll see. That's a 6.
Well, you're not a very good singer. Get out. But no, you like sing the next verse, and he just starts playing the melody with that verse. He still doesn't know where the hell you are, though.
I'm just still walking up there. And eventually, I'll come to view.
Oh, he sees you, and he gets this big smile on his face, and he plays as you sing the next verse. And when the song finally ends, he sets this string instrument down, and he stands, and you see that he's wearing like the robes, almost like a Buddhist monk's robes, but they're caked with blood. It's like it's been dyed with the blood of his victims and his sacrifices. And he walks over, and with his arms out wide, he comes because I am the priest Veer of the sacred carnage, the bloodbath of the afterlife. And he comes over to you, and as the ogre custom is an enormous ogre hug.
I give it to him too. Big old fierce ogre hug.
And he pulls away just to look at you, and he goes, I have not laid eyes upon such a handsome face. And he brushes some of your hair out of your face, and he smooths your beard. This ogre is ancient. He's at least thrice your age.
Oh,
maybe even fucking more. He's old as shit. And he smiles, his old fucking grandpa. He goes, what is your name?
I am Blogveer the Bloodletter. I come with an offering to the great goddess. As I will untie the severed spine and head from my belt and show it to him.
Oh, that is a fine offering. Yes, yeah. Here, place it in the bowls in the shrine.
I'll go over there and I gingerly place it in the bowls.
He looks down at Shihan, and does Shihan making a face at all with this?
No, he is trying to keep his face completely blank.
It's gonna be hard because it's quite ripe here.
Yeah, he has that look on his sort of the I'm trying not to screw my face up in disgust, but I'm having sort of a difficult time doing it.
He can see it in your eyes. So this priest Veer, he looks down. I apologize for our rituals. It is a pungent odor, the sacrifice, but this is the perfume of carnage.
Yes, you do not need to apologize to me, priest. It's I understand. I can just walk over here and stand upwind while Bloodbeard does his ritual.
I will actually dip my 2 fingers into the nasty mixture of gore and fermented wine, and I will dip my fingers in there and then draw the symbol of carnage on my forehead with it.
Oh, beautiful. Oh my god. That's fantastic. So he Veer just he takes a few steps back, and he puts his big fucking ogre hands together, and he claps once, and places his hands above his head, and he chants a thankfulness prayer. to the shrine, and then he bows to the east as he performs this long as shit ritual. And as Shihan, not being particularly devout of any deity, he as you know, is you actually become to know knowledgeable of the fact that Carnage is she's goddess of battle and goddess of bloodshed, all that sort of thing. But she's got some really intricate prayers and rituals, and I'm like, you kind of get this feeling. My God, he carries on. No, he's not done yet, and he it's a whole bit.
Blogbeer sits there, completely. He's into it. He's watching him. He's even praying with him. He's on his knees, praying and humming mantras with them, and just he's in the zone.
So this goes on for about 10 minutes until the prayer is finally done, and so Veer goes over to what looks like this big barrel, this vat, and he gets up this ogre-sized clay pitcher mug kind of thing. It looks like a fucking small growler for Shihan, but he comes over, hands this this really syrupy sweet wine, kind of like a wine mead that looks like fermented blood, and he gives the drink to Blogfair, and he goes, here, you must drink this and take this with you on your journeys, and drink it. Take a sip for every kill for Carnage. He gives you the cup. He goes back over and he fills this big ass ogre-sized wineskin, which is a fucking deer. That's all it is. It's a deer. And he fills this thing up and he gives it to you, this big fucking bag.
I take it. I bow. I take it with much respect and honor, and I will attach it to, like, I'll put it like around my arms and everything, and wear it like a little like a satchel. I have it dangling there, and I will drink deeply from the cup he gave me, and I will just praise Carnage's name. Even some of the gore viscera drips from my head into the wine. I drink that too. I drink it all.
You're gonna need a conditioning test so you don't get shit-faced drunk here now.
She hates doing his best not to gag where he sits.
And yeah, you that drink is very much innards, blood, honey.
That's a 16 on conditioning.
Oh my God, you're fine. You can probably drink this all day. It's kind of like the holy water kind of wine sacrament for
Bloodbeard just he feels he's never felt this way before. He feels so, I don't know, at peace at the same time, but like a roaring hurricane inside. He feels so pious. This is the first time he's visited a shrine of Carnage or really met anyone else who worship the goddess like he does. He's never been to a congregation or met anybody else who worshipped her. Like, he's always done it on his own, kind of by himself, just doing rituals and prayers of what he's heard may be the right thing. He didn't know. He's all self-taught, but now he's absorbing all this like a sponge, and he's loving this piousness, this calm before the storm, these offerings to the great goddess, and he's loving it.
Yeah, there's not many shrines. Actually, there are no temples to the great goddess Carnage, but there are shrines, and there are very few of them, which is very unfortunate, honestly. But
I mean, you can imagine a temple that Carnage would just the entire countryside or whatever would just reek. No one would go near it.
Yeah, no, there's probably a reason why there's not very many. No, so Veer sends you on your way to reap more carnage wherever you go, and he before he does so, he blesses your great club, as it is now an implement of carnage, and you will be You'll actually enchant it in front of you. He'll dip it in the sacred wine, and he will carve a couple sigils of battle into it. So what it'll be is a +1 ass beating ogre mallet spiked of doom is what it'll be, and you got to write that shit down on your character sheet. You got to write it exactly. So no, so
That was great.
sends you on your way with a smile, and but as you're about to leave, and before Shihan, you're just like, oh fuck, finally we're getting away from the Stiggies. No. As the ogre turns into Anderwood, the fucking main man. He goes, no, you come back here. We're gonna give you some ass now too. And Shihan,
And that's not necessary, he says, as he's probably being pulled towards his shrine. It's okay. I'm not a very pious individual, but thank you.
goes, no, give me an implement that you use to gut your enemies.
Okay. He reaches down, pulls around. He pulls out a one of his knives. It just happens to be one of the babushka's knives that he has still. He's like, this one?
You wish only to have a blessing upon a dagger?
Well, I mean, okay, fine. He puts that back and he pulls the sword out.
Oh, I see a mighty weapon. He takes this from you very, very gently, very gingerly, and he again goes over to that big vat of blood honey wine, and he dips it in there, and he sets it upon this stone table next to his hut, and he chants some sutras over it. Oh, the goddess, he is not pious in our ways. He reaches to the heavens and he points out a single star, like a fucking red star in the sky. And he goes, but he will do your bidding when he can. Be blessed upon him and make his travels safe. And hopefully a sea of blood will come behind him in his wake. And he will then impart a +1 blessing of stabbing and ass beating and getting that ass on that sword as he hands it back to you, covered in this fucking blood, awful wine shit on there. Maybe it's a little sticky. There's a honeybee around here somewhere. And now,
thank you.
He sends you both on your way.
Okay. As we leave the area, I look over at Blogbeer and said, is it like, I'm holding the sword in my hand. It's like, is it rude to wipe it off?
He looks at you just with like deadpan. There's like, I would not.
Okay. He puts the, lines it up with his sheath and starts putting in the sheath. Of course, it goes in sort of slowly because it's just sort of all that gore on it. It's almost all the way in. He has to shove it in just a little bit more to make it actually go all the way in. It's like
it goes into the scabbard with this sound.
Yeah.
So now you get back to your lodging, and this will be the last scene that we have before soliloquies for the evening. Odin finally comes back to the village, and he meets with you, and he's mostly to Shihane. I apologize for my absence. I went to go speak with the other kings, as well as send word to Fulgarith the Mighty, or High King, firstborn of Lekra, as you know. You wish to aid us and go down into the valley and rid
Yes.
plague for us? Yeah.
Yes, we do.
I have the description of the last time that he was seen. his fellows were camped out between two great crags in the eastern portion of the valley. Now, these two crags are surrounded by a great pine forest. It was very thick, and a few trackers and I were hunting for a sacrifice this past spring. And this is, from my knowledge, this is their compound that they were using for their cabal. And at that time, they were not raiding the tombs yet. We simply took them for being mortals that were practicing some rituals, and by the stench of the dread of the place, we assumed that they had moved into a court controlled by the Reaper King. But we quickly found out in the months afterwards that this is absolutely not the case. If they have not moved from this place, and if you take out your map, he will actually point onto this map that Friggath gave you. This is where we saw this last. If they haven't moved, they should still be there.
Shehane marks the spot with a bit of a charcoal stick there, and so okay, that's where we'll be making our way to. He looks and says, where the tombs laid out, and says we can check these tombs on the way too and see if they've been plundered yet. So,
Please do. There are many Arborians amongst the wardens, including myself, and he kind of just lets that hang in the air. But we enjoy our privacy, as you understand.
oh yes, I understand completely. Yes, I have to. Well, first of all, I apologize for the smell. We've been to the Shrine of Carnage.
I smelt it before I saw you. I understand. Veer is a gentle soul, even though his piety is of bloodshed. But he is he has many a wonderful story about his travels to the far east, across the mountains, and to the north. He has many friends amongst the hobgoblins up there.
Mayhap I can come back once all this is settled and sit with him, well, upwind from his shrine, and discuss these tales.
And he turns to Blogveer. He goes, "You must see that you come back in one piece as well, Bloodletter."
Oh, I shall. It was my foes that will be in pieces.
With that, my friends, I will leave you. I do not envy you this task, but I give you all the blessings that a priest of the storm can give you.
Thank you for the blessings.
Travel safely, be well, and if you should come back this way, come back in one piece. He gives you a short bow and dismisses himself. And for that evening, you are left to your drinking, your relaxing, and your prepping to leave at first light, or possibly just before first light. And we will wrap up this session with soliloquies. We will start with Shehane. Let's hear it, brother.
Shehane, and once he's out of Blogveer's sight for a bit, he pulls the sword out, and he doesn't wipe it clean completely, but he does sort of wipe the worst of it off. And he notices the blade has, even with that bit of blood and honey and such, does have that red sheen, and starts to think to himself, maybe this is an omen of good fortune, seeing that I am the red blade, and now this is as well. He tries to clean the scabbard a bit before he puts it back in. And he leans back and looks up at the sky, at the stars above, and notices the moon and the phase it's in, and thinks to himself, is the next full moon the one we have to worry about? He's noticing that the moon has been getting brighter and the nights have been getting less dark. But is it possible that the coming of the light could actually bring the coming of the darkness so quickly, so horribly for these people, for me, for my family? And he thinks back to his homeland and the fact that the Atlanteans have come so far north, and he has visions in his mind of Atlanteans marching through his old forests, enslaving those he knew, the ladies he had met that he looked at from afar but never approached because he was, well, while he seems to act as if he's good with the ladies and such, he was always terrified of his own kind. And looks at Blogveer covered in this gore and thinks to himself, oh, it's just he's right now, tomorrow it'd be worse. But maybe look at the predators away. And he thinks to himself, it's a good thing that Blogveer has this strong hope that his lady is alive. He'll hopefully get him through the next few days, and especially with the darkness of that fell upon us because of Gilfric's falling. And he sits there for a moment, he glances at the darkness and realizes there's nothing there, which is at this point almost an odd thing. That darkness, that constant presence was almost, though it was terrifying, had become almost like having a scary friend in the corner, if you will. And he wonders, are they still watching me? Probably. He leans back once again, looks at the stars, and drifts off to sleep shortly after that.
Before we go to Blogveer, I will say those first few dreams, those images in the land of Morpheus that Shihan sees, are the images of that forbidden sacred grove that he remembers from the boy, and he knows exactly which one. The one tree that you're not supposed to sleep under. The tree that you're not supposed to set foot near. The great bard, the legendary minstrel that sleeps within that grove. He still watches that woodland. This image turns to nightmare as goblins pour through this grove, and they begin cutting down these trees and burning them. The last image that he sees before a fitful night's rest is that orichalcum sword sitting on that dais. The flames from across the way kind of reflecting in that blade. And we go to Blogveer.
Blogveer will be getting ready to bed down for the night. He has just removed his armor, set it aside, nice and neat. His war club is leaned up against the side of the lodging. All of his supplies are laid out. Everything is ready to go. And as he begins to lay down, he thinks of Kaya again, and he thinks of Gilfac, and he thinks of these memories. But he stops himself, and he steels himself, and he knows that the time for mourning is past, and he will use their strength and their sacrifice to fuel his anger and vengeance. And he is now anointed. His weapon is bathed in the blood of the great goddess, and he will dole out her great slaughter to all of his enemies. And he finally falls asleep with the hope and the image of Kaya, and how he will find her and will be reunited with her soon. And the Atlantean commander, governor, being crushed before him, and he will fall asleep with a smile on his face, eagerly awaiting the rise of the sun so they begin their journey.
Those images of Kaya and her beauty do find you in your sleep. But as you will look at the next morning, just briefly, as Blogveer will awaken, or just before he's about to wake, those dreams he's starting to come out of the land of Morpheus, and he's seeing all of these images of her working this garden, tending the commander governor, being the serving girl who serves him his morning wine, or fans him while he sunbathes, or all of these other things, the bits and pieces, the tiny minutia of these images in the land of Morpheus. You're piecing together, by all the gods, you think, I've been here before. Where the hell is this? I don't. And it's maddening, because logically you're trying to get through the dreamscape subconsciously, as your id kind of like takes over, and you start to think, you start to feel, you smell the salt of the sea, the flowers, you start to smell the flowers that even her natural scent you smell, and it is intoxicating, as it has always been. She's somewhere in the south. You hear gulls. She's near the ocean. And that is where we will end the session. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. This was Warhorns on the River. Good night, everybody.
Good night.